and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hi there, everybody. Okay, there we go. Okay, hi. Welcome to the NQ Wednesday, everybody. Let's dive into question one today. Question one today is, have you ever considered a Beat Buddy pedal for drum tracks, or is it too complex for your needs? No, I have. I have considered it. I've considered a few things, to be honest with you, about drums and this, that, and the other. And I've considered a Beat Buddy. But I'm happy with what I've got. You know what I mean? Again, comes down to creature of habit thing. I know what patterns I want to use in the Zoom. And they do what I need them to do. And that's all that matters. I'm not after any kind of like fanciness, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? They just need to be a steady, solid beat, and that's what the Zoom gives me. You know, and I've got certain kind of like patterns which I favour on there, which I just kind of go to instinctively, and it does everything I want it to do. You know, I've got 3/4 in there. I've got 4/4. I've got like blues, kind of shuffles and stuff like that. So I've got everything I need really in the Zoom. I mean, and I don't really get bothered by the sound of it. It's a very lo-fi drum sound, definitely, but I like that. I really like the quality and the character of it because it's different. You know, if I was to get like, you know, really realistic drum sounds and stuff like that, it might take some of that character away, and I'm scared of that. And also the fact is, like I say, is I'm a creature of habit. I do not have any interest. When I find something that works for me, I just stick to it like glue. So, but I have thought of the Beat Buddy. Yeah, definitely. It has come to mind on many, many occasions of like, I wonder. And maybe in the future I might try it, maybe. But at this point in time, I've got no desire. And because I've got no desire, I'm not actively trying to search it out, if that makes any sense. Sorry, I've got hiccups. Oh, it's my chicken sandwich coming back up. Anyway, where are we? So yeah, yeah, it's not really something. It's not something I'm going to kind of like pursue, the Beat Buddy. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely cool, and I like it. And I have watched videos on it, and I have researched it. I've definitely gone, But every time I go back to my Zoom, I'm just comfortable. And I know, like I said, I know what patterns I want by what the chord progression is. Well, you know, the song tells me it needs this pattern, it needs 07, it needs 024 or whatever. You know, it's just really simple and to the point, and my kind of like it's like my go-to thing because again, it just works, and I really like the way it sounds with reverb on it, especially loads of reverb on it. The Zoom drum machine, it just sounds really big and epic, and it sounds like an overproduced drum kit. You know what I mean? It's like you know, really, it sounds like overproduced to the point where it's almost lo-fi, and I like that. And I like the fact you can tell it's a drum machine because I don't want it to sound like real drums, if that makes any sense. I want it to sound like that. I like that sound, you know. It's why I like using drum machines on some of the songs I've recorded, because I'm really big fan of that sound. And it all stems back to, I bet you can't guess who, but Mr. John Frusciante. Because to record Water for only 10 Days album, he used a drum machine on that, and I've always had a fascination with the sound he's got on that album because he used like a pod and like a drum machine, and everything was really lo-fi, and I really like the kind of like dullness and the kind of like, you know, like I say, I don't want to call it cheap because it's not a cheap sound at all, but it's not high fidelity sound. You know what I mean? It's not HD. It's really, I don't know, I can't think of the exact word I want, but it's very real sounding to me. I really like the sound of it. It really appeals to me, and I really get on with it a lot more than I would if I was to use other things. And I really like my Zoom G2's drum machine. I really like my Zoom rhythm track drum machine I used to record songs, Keith, as he's called. You know, I really like that as well. I really like using it. Again, it's some songs I'm like, it needs drums, you know, it just needs real drums. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I want the drum machine on this one. I want it to sound that way. I want it to sound like John Frusciante's to record Water or something like that. And I do like using drum machines. I like the there's something about them. There really is something about the sound of them that really appeals to me, and I really like it. So yeah, no, I don't know. But I have looked at the Beat Buddy, but it's not for me. I'm not, at this point in time, it's not for me. But I have definitely looked at it and I've gone, But at this point in time, I'm very happy. I'm very settled with the Zoom's drum machine. And I don't really feel the need to stray from it because I'm so comfortable. And because I know it inside and out, and I know the sounds I want, and I know this, and I know that, and I know this, and I know where the volumes need to be, and all this kind of thing at any given moment. You know, I'm really happy with it. And again, all I need it for is that basic steady beat. I don't need it for any kind of like crazy fills or kind of like cymbal crashes or any of that kind of thing. Because those kind of like accentuated parts come from the guitar. You know what I mean? Of things. Because I like the way the drums just kind of sit back. A good example of this is Audioslave's first album. If you listen to Brad Wilk on the first Audioslave album, especially in songs like a Stone and I Am the Highway, you know, any song on that album, it's very stripped back drums. You know, he's like a metronome, the man is. He's absolutely simple as can be. Every now and again, there's a cymbal hit. But there's not, you know, there's not roll-throughs, there's not kind of crazy drums. It's just a very steady drummer. And I really like that. I like the space that gives of the fact of, you know, the drums aren't kind of accentuating parts, so you've got to do it with other instruments, like, you know, whether it be a guitar or a bass or whatever. And I like that. And you have to build things in a different way, and the drums don't take up too much space, and I like that. It's just something I've got used to over the years as well of doing because of limitations that I've had with not being able to get into a studio to record with John Joe and all the time and not having him nearby to record drums properly all the time and stuff like that. And also time constraints, stuff like this. You know, so it's something I've just got used to and something I love from the get-go because it reminded me of John Frusciante, and still to this day really love it because it reminds me of John Frusciante. So, you know, but yeah, I have looked at the Beat Buddy, maybe in the future, but at this point in time, I'm a happy little bunny. So, I don't really feel the need to expand in that direction at this point in time. I'm very, very comfortable where I am. Okay, so yeah, I hope this answers your question. Another part of your question was, is it too complex for your needs? It might be. It might be a bit too much. It might take away some of the character of the sound I like to hear. You know, like what I just said about keeping it simple, it might just be a little bit too much. I don't know until I try one. Watching the videos on it though, it seems really cool. I mean, you can keep it simple, but I don't know. Maybe so. Very possibly. I don't know though. I'd have to see. You know, in the future I might invest in one, and we'll see how we get on. We'll see. But anyway, I'm gonna move on to question 2 now. Okay, so question 2 is, what's a good amp for the John Frusciante tone and clean sounds for softer blues and soul music? I have been offered a Marshall JCM 2000 DSL 100. Do you think it could do the job? And do you have experiences with that amp? Yeah, I don't like the DSLs, the JCM 2000. I don't like them at all. They just sound really. I've played a lot of them. We had a few in Old Hat, and I just didn't like them. They just didn't appeal to me. But saying that, I did play through a couple of gigs. I've played through a JCM 2000 combo, but I was using my pedals, so the amp was just there for power. But straight in, I really dislike the JCM 2000s, the dual super leads. I really don't like them at all. It's the same as the TSLs. The TSLs, I don't like the TSLs even more than the DSLs. But will it do the John Frusciante thing? I couldn't get it to, but I know more now than I did then, so maybe. I mean, I doubt you wouldn't be able to, but it just depends on certain aspects of the guitar amp. And I always found the DSLs to be too fizzy. You know, they're really, I'll tell you what though, they are great pedal platforms. I will give them that. The DSLs are wicked, like I say, that combo I used to run my certain gigs where I've had to use them at gigs and stuff, where that's the backline supply. They're great pedal platforms. So, if you've been offered one, and you want it, you know what I mean? But bearing in mind though, they're an okay design, but they're very flawed design. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with the DSLs. If they're a bit iffy in the first place, you can get dry joints. Well, you can get dry joints on any amp, but DSLs are kind of rife with it. And also, it's a PCB board. And the PCB board is not the best in the DSLs. My friend Gaz, who fixes all my amps for me and services all my stuff for me when it needs doing and whatnot, he's had some right horror stories with the DSL series. Absolutely some real horror stories. I've seen some in his workshop that are literally burnt out. And when I mean burnt out, they're burnt out. The PCB board in places is black. It's absolutely charred to, it's like burnt toast. It's just ruined. And it did that basically because, the bias was wrong, or there was a faulty component, or, whatever, dry joint, whatever. They're not a particularly, they're reliable, but some aren't. And that's the problem. It's such a toss-up. But, I suppose I'll say any amp really do. But anyway, I'm not a big fan of the DSLs. I've tried so many of them. But like I say, they are great pedal platforms. And the classic... Is it called Classic Clean or Classic Gain? Because there's the Ultra Gain, and then there's the Classic. The Classic mode on those amps is really good. It's really good. It doesn't quite... Because it's supposed to be like a Plexi. It doesn't quite do the Plexi thing. It doesn't have the compression. It doesn't have the tonality. It's not dark enough. It's too fizzy. And it just doesn't quite do it. But you set that clean channel really neutral and you get a great pedal platform. But I would still recommend other things over the JCM, the DSLs. If it has to be valve, I would go more down the route of something like the Marshall the Marshall Studio Plexi. It's like this tiny little Plexi they bought out recently. That if it has to be valve, that's where I'd go. If you want the John Frusciante thing and you want the clean thing, the bluesy kind of soul thing, I would go down the lines of like a Marshall the Studio, Classic Studio, I think it's called. It's basically a Plexi, tiny Plexi. Go that way. There's also JTM 45. I don't know what your budget is though. There's also stuff like God damn it, hang on. I demoed one, it was amazing, and I can't think of for the life of me what it was called. Oh, that is so irritating. I'm gonna have to check. Sorry everyone, give me a minute. I was sent one to demo, and this would be a very good amp for it, but I don't remember what it was called. I can see it, but I can't I can't think of it. I really can't think of it. Oh my god, this is driving me insane. What is it called? I mean, God. Well, there's another one that's come up there. The Origin 20, Marshall Origin 20. There's also the Orange OR 15, or the OR series of Orange are amazing. So, there's the Orange ORs. They do the John Frusciante thing, definitely, if you run the gain low. And they can also clean up if you run the gain even lower than that. And they sound amazing. The OR 15, actually, funny enough, the OR 15 is an amp that I really want to own. I really want an OR 15, and at some point I'd really like to get one. Because I remember the first time I played through one, it was at Old Hat. And I was blown away by the versatility of that thing. It's absolutely amazing. I've got a demo of it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but... the OR is just stunning. Absolutely stunning amp. Jet City! That's the one! Yeah, I got it! The Jet City JCA 20HV. I did a demo of it 2 years ago. Crikey. The Jet City one. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, I've got a few options there. So, I wouldn't recommend the JCM DSLs. Like I said, I don't really like them. I've heard so many horror stories. I'm sure there's a lot of people who can contradict my horror stories, and that's cool, but I can only speak from my experience. And when I've played through them, I've found them straight in, without pedals. I found them very uninspiring. With pedals, jobs are good. But without, I find them a bit meh. and a bit not really doing anything for me. I just found them very flat and dull and fizzy and just lifeless. They didn't really sound anything. But like I say, there's Jet City, there's the Orange as well. The OR series are incredible. If you're going to go solid state, Boss Katana. Or Orange CR120. You can't go wrong with either of them. Yeah, you really can't. Both versatile little beasts. And if you can find one, Marshall MG. But if it's got to be Valve, like I say, there's the Marshall Studio, there's the Marshall Origin, the Marshall, the Jet City, one I mentioned. There's the Orange OR series, even the ADs, the Orange AD 30s. They would sort you out because they got 2 channels. So what you could do is you could set one channel to be like a John tone and then another one to be like a clean tone because it'll do that for you. So the ADs will do it as well, the AD 30s. And they're amazing. They're amazing amps. I love those amps. They're so good. I like the ORs more, and I like the CR above that. But they're my 3 favourite kind of like orange amps, if you will. The Rock Reverbs are really nice as well, but I definitely prefer the ORs and the ADs over the Rock Reverbs. Rock Reverbs are cool. I mean, that's what the CR20 120 is technically. But I still prefer the ORs. I think the OR series of orange amps, I find that to be a smoother response. The Rock Reverbs have a spike. They're a bit more like that, whereas the ORs are a bit more kind of like nice, a bit more jazz club in a nice way. They're a bit more smooth, not as aggressive. And the same thing with the ADs. The ADs I find are a bit kind of in the middle of both. They've got the kind of aggressiveness of a Rock Reverb, but they've got the mildness of the OR. So they're kind of the best of both worlds, but they don't quite have enough gain in them. Whereas the OR is kind of like, you can get everything out of that thing. And then same with the CR120. But yeah, I really want to try a Thunderverb. I haven't tried one of them before. I really want to try one of those. I really want to try that. I also want to try the OR100, which apparently is like a tank. To move. It's so heavy apparently. So I'd really like to try the OR100 at some point because I've only tried the OR15, and again I would love to own that amp. It's such a great amp. It really does kind of like I can remember it so fondly from old hat, and I remember I sold that amp eventually, and I was like absolutely gutted when I sold it and it left the shop because I was like, that was my go-to amp for a long time. I just literally went to that amp all the time. I loved it so much. But like I say, if it doesn't have to be Valve, there's the Boss Katana, CR120, or the Marshall MG if you can find them. Fender Stage if you can find them. Stuff like that. Yeah, either way. Yeah. But anyway, hope that's answered your question. But yeah, all the amps I've said will do the John thing, blues thing, clean thing, soul thing. They'll definitely do that. So yeah. I'm glad I mentioned the Jet City as well because I forget about that amp a lot, and every time I remember it, I'm like, God, that was amazing. That's another amp that I wish I could have kept. Like when I demoed it, I was like, I really want to keep this. It was amazing. It looked fantastic, sounded amazing, and it just was amazing. But yeah. Anyway, maybe for the future. Anyway, so I hope that's your question. Moving on to question 3. Okay, so question 3 is: do you use a compressor? And how do you use it? And can you use a compressor for drones when you're playing guitar? To answer the last part, drones, yeah, you can use a compressor to give you sustain when you hit a note to drone stuff out, definitely. It's quite a good idea. Just be aware that the drone could be a bit too loud if you hit the low E. If you drone like your low E string, it could be a bit, your drone could be louder than your actual notes, so just be aware of that. The compressor, because it equals everything out, but sometimes it doesn't, and just be aware. That's happened to me a few times. Do I use a compressor? Yeah, very, 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 very lightly though. I use the compressor more on a volume side than a compressor side. It's like Andy Timmons. I've always had a compressor engaged on my Zoom G2, but it's not. The compression is super low and the volume's high, if that makes sense. And what that does, it basically smacks the front end of your amp harder and gives you a more punchy clean tone. I did it in my video. I did it more in my video, actually. The video where I'd set up my Zoom G2, if I was going to gig the Zoom G2 alone with no other pedals, I did that in that where I maxed out the volume on the compressor to push the clean tone. I don't do that on my pedal board because I don't need to, because I use pedals to get my clean tone. So I have the compression volume set to 50, and I basically have the compression off. It's like really low. It's like 2 or 3. I don't know where it is actually, to be honest. It's been set for so long I don't remember. But I don't know. Or is it higher than that? I literally don't remember. Because I set it and forget it. But I have the compression really, really low, and I just have the volume really high. Because the volume's at 50 on my pedal board, and then when I did that demo video with the setting up the zoom for pedal, for gig use as the only pedal, I had it set to 100, and what it does, it just gives you a bit more of a bigger clean tone. It just kind of kicks your clean tone. And again, Andy Timmons does that, and quite a few people do that. Paul Gilbert uses a compressor when he wants clean and stuff like that. So that's how I use it, but it's very, very, very lightly. But I do miss it when it's not there, because I like what a compressor does to get rid of the highs and the lows. It just kind of like, it just brings... I don't like it when it's like super squish. John Frusciante, Blood Sugar Sex Magic Tone. I don't really like it when it gets that squished. I like it when it's just kind of like, if that's kind of like, the extent of your waveform when you're playing. I like when it just kind of comes in a little bit on the bottom and the top. You know what I mean? And it just gets rid of the super highs and gets rid of the super lows and just controls everything, and doesn't get rid of dynamics. Because you got to be careful with compressors, because sometimes they can totally ruin your dynamics of your playing and just make everything like this. See, I've never liked that. I don't like super compression. So I have it set very, very lightly, but the volume of the compressor is quite loud, and because of that, it really kicks. And I like that. I really like that. And again, I've had it set like that since 2005. So it is one of those things where it's just set it and forget it. I'm really curious now to what it's set to. I know the volume's at 50, and I know it's set to the fast setting, which means the compression is super quick. It doesn't take, because you have a fast and a slow setting on the Zoom G2, and the slow setting means the compression kind of like gradually comes in. So again, if that's your big waveform and you hit a note, it'll slowly do this to the threshold you set it to. So it'll gradually close in every time you play a note. And you can kind of hear it doing it. And I don't really like that. It has some application, definitely, but I don't like it. I have a fast setting, so as soon as you hit a note, it goes whoop, and it stays there until you let go. And I like that a lot more. Sorry, everybody. I definitely prefer that to the slow setting. But I don't remember for the life of me where the compression's set. I don't even know what it goes up to. Does it go to 10 or does it go to 100? I can't even think. I can't even... Like I say, it's been so... Again, I did it. I set it, didn't I? If you go to... Is it 5? That's going to drive me insane. Anyway, in the... How I set up the Zoom G2 for a gig, I set it then. Is it 5 or is it 8? I don't know if it's 8. I don't remember. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I've got it written down. I don't need to remember it. I've got it written down somewhere. So I always write down your settings. If you find this is something I've done forever. Is I don't have an example in here, do I? No, I don't. Oh, I do, but I can't get to it sadly. All the settings I've ever come across in my Zoom or my pedals that I like. Granted, it's technically only one. What I do is I write them down. So I have settings written down for my Boss Katanas, my amps, my pedals. I have them all written down. So, it's just kind of like, one of those things of like, I don't have to remember it now. I don't have to worry about it, because if I ever forget, I can just go, oh yeah, that's how I had it set. You know what I mean? So I always find it's really important to kind of keep like a log of the way you had settings at a certain point, or this, that, and the other. It's really cool. So, granted, most of my settings have never changed, but the bit of paper I've got them all written on is still the same bit of paper, mostly from 2005. It's quite amusing. Anyway, actually no, it'd have been 2007 though. Yes, 2007 it would have been, actually, because I changed it because when I got the guv'nor and stuff. Anyway, and added all more to it. But anyway, that's not important. But the concept is cool, to write down your settings. Really, really cool thing to do. But yeah, I use compression very, very lightly. But the compression from the Zoom is fantastic. I love it. And I really like how unintrusive it is. Like I've got a Marshall compressor pedal called Ed the compressor, and again that does the exact same thing as well. It's a really awesome compressor where it doesn't get in the way. I've played some compressors in the past where it's like it really takes over and doesn't let things breathe and sing. I am the law. It becomes Judge Dredd, and I don't like that. Whereas the compression in the Zoom, actually saying that, yeah, the compression in the Zoom is absolutely perfect. It really is. It never overcolors or anything. It never kind of overstays its welcome. It's really perfect, and I really like it. And again, I've become so accustomed to it. And again, you never hear it kind of taking control of the sound. It's just, you know, it just sits there. You know what I mean? It's never kind of like, no, now we're gonna squish you a bit more, but no, we're not. You know, it's I have it set in such a way. Is it 8? 8 F550. Yes, that's it. Yeah, I remembered. So I have it set to 8 F550, which sounds like a lot, but isn't. I have a sneaking suspicion the Zoom. Sorry, I'm going to go off here. What's new? The compression on Zoom goes to 10. So I have it on 8, which seems quite high, but it's not. When you put the compression to 9, though, on the Zoom, you all of a sudden get squish. When you get to 10, you get blood sugar sex magic. Anyway, I'm just glad I remembered. Anyway, I bet I'm wrong now, aren't I? Anyway. But yeah, that's how I use it. And like I said, I really like the compression in the Zoom. It's just really smooth. And it just lops off the highs I don't want to hear and lops off the lows. To the point where when it's not there, I can hear those highs and I can hear those lows. And I don't like them there. Certain amps have it more than others. And I can get by it. But the compression in the Zoom is something I've just got so used to and I like so much that it's really hard to kind of, it's not hard, but it's in certain respects, in certain amps, but it's hard to kind of live without it. I just love it so much. You know, I like compression. And I think a compressor is a pedal that every guitarist should have. I think it's a really important pedal. And compression in general is super important, especially if you're going after John Frusciante. But compression for John Frusciante comes from your amp and not pedals. Anyway, well, it can come from pedals. I tell like it can come, but John's compression comes from his amps. Anyway, that's another video altogether. Let's not dive down that rabbit hole. We'll be here all day. So anyway, yeah. So I hope that's your question. That's how I use it. I really think compression is a must-have effect for any guitarist in the world. It's just one of those effects that, you know, it just gives you that extra tone shaping, and also, you know, like I say, it just makes everything a little bit smoother and nicer and rounder and just lovelier. And I like that. So yeah, compression is cool. Compression is your friend. So yeah, that's how I use compression. Will it work for drones? Definitely, yeah. And that's how I use it. And I do use compression, yes. Not massive amounts. Definitely more volume on the compressor side than the actual compression side. But yeah, but you know what I mean. Okay, so moving on to final question of the day, question 4. So question 4 today is: Do you plan on making a video about the best affordable brand for each shape of guitar, like Strat, Tele, SG, Les Paul, 335, etc., or talk about affordable vintage guitars and pedals? I haven't thought about doing either one of them. No, I mean, when it comes down to doing videos on affordable guitars, I mean, you know, it's like you got your Squire Bullet, you know, series. You know, you can get Telecasters, you can get Strats, you can get Mustangs. You know, SGs wise, you can get kind of all sorts. You know, you can get Harley Benton do them, Vintage do them, Revelation do like an SG kind of thing. 335s again. You got the Heartwood Revivals. You've got. I've kind of gone there. I mean, Les Paul's as well. Revelation. You've got Revelation. You've got Harley Benton, Vintage, Epiphone. I haven't thought about doing a video on each one though, and finding out which one is the most affordable. Because again, it when it comes down to that kind of thing, it's totally subjective, and it's also budget. Budget. What's the word? Dependent. You know what I mean? Because you know, some guitars. Oh, sorry, some cheap guitars. Some cheap guitars are not cheap for some people. if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? An Epiphone Les Paul is classed as a cheap guitar, but not everyone can afford an Epiphone Les Paul. You know, a Squier Classic Vibe or a Squier Classic Vintage Modified or whatever, you know, whatever it is, Tele, Strat, Jag, whatever, they're classed as a cheap guitar, but for a lot of people, they're not cheap guitars. You know, the Bullet, in some respects, is not, you know, it's this one was £109. You know, the tremolo version's 120. You know, so for some people, that they might not be able to stretch that far. So it's all budget dependent, and I don't really know if I'd want to kind of go down that rabbit hole of like, you know, this is the cheapest SG, this is this and the other, because it might not be. There might be something else that I don't know about. There's a lot of holes there, and I don't really want to go probing in them, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, because you just don't know where. You know, I've never thought about doing that. And the whole kind of budget vintage gear, I have thought about that one because I've got quite a bit of budget vintage gear. The Tysco amp I did the demo of, you know, that's cost me 80 quid. You know, I got a Del Rey, Tysco Del Rey guitar my sister owns now, and I got that for 40 quid. And I got these two Vox Escorts next to me here. They're vintage amps from the 70s. You know, I did a trade for the bass amp, and the top one I bought for 40 quid. You know, I've got a Hondo 2 Strat here, which is, again, it's from 1974, and it's a cheap budget vintage guitar. But have I thought about doing a video? Like, not really, no. It's not something that I'm going to dive into, because I don't know. I don't know how I would do it. I don't know how to do that, you know what I mean? Because stuff like this and the Voxes and stuff like that, they don't come up that often, especially stuff like the Tysco Audition amps and stuff like that. You know, you don't find them very often. They don't show up a great deal. So, you know, it's quite hard to do a video on something like that where they're quite hard to come by, you know what I mean? It's difficult. And the whole thing of, like, you know, what was it again? Sorry, the best affordable brand for each shape of guitar. I mean, it's a cool concept, definitely a cool concept. But I feel I've kind of done that in a way with you know, the Bullets, which I recommend over. These things are insane. Absolutely insane guitars. The Bullets are mind-blowing. They're so good. They're so good. I mean, I prefer the Bullets to Affinities. Because like I say, I always find the Affinities pickups to be hit and miss, more miss than hit. Whereas the Bullets always sound good. You know, I mean, I've played three. I've had three. No, sorry, I've played two. No, I've had two, played four. Yeah, because one was Joe's, one was in Old Hat, and I've owned the red one, and I own that Sunburst one. Oh, no, there's another one, so it's 5. And each one of them has just been wicked. You know what I mean? They sound exactly like a Strat. Yeah, I mean, the only thing you have to compromise on is the thinness of the body. They're not full thickness bodies. And obviously, you've got cheap components that will wear out. But they're great guitars, and that's fundamentally all that matters. You know, as long as it's a good guitar, it's a good guitar. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter about its price point. You know, and you know, cheap SGs. You know, you got Vintage, you've got Revelation, you got all sorts. I mean, it's just like there's so much you can. You know, I don't feel like I need to do it because there's so, you know, all you need to do is Google these kind of things, and they come up really quick and easy. You know, I mean, it's really simple. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I would do it. I mean, I like the idea of it, but I don't know how to do it. And the affordable vintage gear, again, I don't know how I would do it. But you're looking at Tysco stuff, you know what I mean? Tysco stuff is amazing. It really is cool. I mean, that amp that I've got upstairs with its 3-watt little brother, they're so good. You know, and that's an amp I can see I'll have forever because I can't see a point. I can see a point where I'm going to be recording something and I'm like, I need a certain sound and it's going to be that amp. You know what I mean? So yeah. And again, it was cheap as chips. So it's like, you know, it didn't break the bank to buy it. So, you know, it's not like that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to do those videos. Is the honest reply. You know, the quick and honest reply is I just don't know how to do it. Would I do it? I don't know. I'd have to think of an angle, and I can't think of an angle on that, to be honest with you. It's a bit, you know, if someone's asked me what the most affordable brand is, there's too many to name just one. Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's Squire, there's Revelation, there's Epiphone, there's Sub-Zero, I've already said Revelation. There's all sorts, you know. There's Harley Benton. There's others as well. You know, it's Ibanez. Ibanez do some cheap stuff. You know, it's hard to pick saying, oh, that's the one. You know what I mean? Because again, it's all subjective, budget dependent. There's so many variables in there, so it's really hard to just go, it's that one there. You know what I mean? So you know, what would I recommend? You know, it'd be, you know, if somebody was after a really low budget Strat, it'd be a Squire Bullet. If you had a bit more of a budget, I'd say go Classic Vibe or Vintage Modified. You know, the same thing with Telecasters and Jaguars and whatever. And Les Paul wise and SG wise, I would say go Revelation. If you don't want a Revelation, go Vintage. If you don't want Vintage, go Epiphone. You know, but again, it's totally subjective. And again, it comes down to kind of like what works for one person won't work for the other. So you've got to be aware of that as well. You know what I mean? There's a lot of variables here. It's a bit of a confuzzlement. But yeah. Because I don't really see an angle, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? I don't see how to do it so it is concise, if that makes any sense. And it's not just kind of like, you know, this might be, you know, I'd rather not be that way. Anyway. But yeah, anyway, I hope that answers that part of your question. You also asked, how did you fix your Marshall guv'nor onto your pedal board with the rubber underneath? Did you succeed in putting Velcro on them, or did you use something else? I know what you mean. Because, yeah, the rubber pad under the Marshall guv'nor pedals, or Marshall pedals in general, tends to reject Velcro. This is why you use super glue. That's what I use. Super glue on the bottom of the Velcro and on the bottom of the pedal, and jobs are good. That'll sort you out. Especially epoxy. Yeah, if you get something like Gorilla Glue, that ain't coming off. Yeah, that is not coming off. So, you know, but normal super glue will do the job. I mean, I use I've got some down here. I'm using this stuff recently, which is really, really good. Just Loctite super glue. These tiny little things, and they're really, really good. They do the job. But like I say, I mean, on my first ever guv'nor, I removed the rubber pad on the bottom, and I super glued the Velcro to the metal. On my second guv'nor, which I've got on my other pedal board, that's just super glued on. And I have another guv'nor as well, but it's on loan to my friend Dan, and that's super glued on as well, I believe. So yeah, super glue is a trick to that. And what I do is I put super glue over the sticky stuff on the Velcro already. So like the sticky side of the Velcro, I put super glue on it as well. And you normally kind of like, you know, it's like, yeah, I've got this, man. It comes hard. Anyway, yeah. So that's how I do it. So yeah, I do apologise for the answer to your first part of your question. It wasn't the best answer in the world. But like I say, I don't know how to approach that side of things. You know what I mean? Because there's so many ways in. You know what I mean? There's so many kind of like angles there. It's like, which one do I take? You know? So I don't know. I don't know at this point in time. At this point in time, no, I won't be doing any videos like that. But in the future, if I find a way, yes, definitely. The hiccups are coming back. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. That's a difficult one to kind of like, you know, I don't know how to approach that one. But anyway, yeah, difficult. Anyway, yeah, so that's it, everybody. Feels weird. Okay, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this A&Q Wednesday, everybody. If you want to submit a question for A&Q, description box below, there's an email link. Send me an email there with your question, and I will get to it when I can get to it. I don't have many left in my inbox, but I'm getting through it. So if you've got a question, fire it over to me there, and yeah, and I'll get to it. Because I go through them sequentially. Like I say, I mean, if it's a question I've already answered, I won't answer it twice. So if I've already answered it, if your question doesn't get answered, odds are I've already answered it. And I just go through them sequentially. So I don't kind of pick and choose. Like, oh, I fancy this one. I go through them. So from the bottom, I just go up and do that. And like I say, the only time I miss one is if I've already answered it. So especially if I've answered it multiple times, I don't answer it again. So I hope that makes some kind of sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the vid, everybody. I'll see you again for another vid on Friday. Fried Egg Day. And I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah.